All right, everyone, let's talk about the biggest gear and roadblock in Lost Ark, and that is going from 1340 to 1370. And what I wanted to do today is share with you guys 5 important tips that are going to help you go from 1340 to 1370. So let's go ahead and get right into it. And I want to start off here with number 1, and this is the most important tip by far. Very important as you get into these higher honing levels where your chance to succeed is actually going to be lower and lower. And you're definitely going to notice that you're going to start to fail quite a bit here. And because of that, you're going to be building up your Artisans Energy, and it's very important that you don't actually mess up your Artisans Energy and that you finish it off at a nice even 100%. You don't want to find yourself in a scenario where you end up failing an enhancement for your gear and then you end off at like 98 or 99%. That's an absolute disaster because not only have you failed a lot, but now you have another honing attempt that you have to do where you do not have a guaranteed success. Whereas if you ended up finishing off right at 100%, then now you know, even though you failed a whole bunch, you're going to have a guaranteed success on your next honing attempt. And just so you guys can get a sense here of an example, let's say that you're honing a piece of gear and you're going to be getting your Artisans Energy every time that you fail, and your chance to succeed is also going to go up each time that you fail as well. So on top of that, every attempt that you do is actually going to end up giving you more Artisans Energy. So if we start off here and we fail, let's say we get 15 Artisans Energy, then if we fail that, we're going to get 17 Artisans Energy, 19, 21. We've still failed here. And the problem is we have now failed 4 times, but we've ended off at 95 Artisans Energy, which is a big fat rip. We want to find ourselves not in that predicament there. We'd much rather, instead of ending off at 95%, we'd much rather end off at 100%, because at 95%, now I have another honing attempt that I have to do where I am not guaranteed to succeed. Whereas if I ended at 100%, then even though I failed 5 times, now I know that the next one is going to succeed. So you want to get in the practice here of making sure that your Artisans Energy ends off at 100% and not 99%, or so on and so forth, right? So what we can actually do here is, you know, if we go 15 to 17, 19, 21, instead of going with 23%, if we actually add a little bit of materials here to that last attempt there to make sure that if we somehow still fail again, we don't end off at 95%. We want to keep an eye on our Artisans Energy here and make sure that we add just enough material to make sure that we end off at 100%. Because not only is that going to end up increasing your chance to succeed, but that's going to make sure that you don't mess up your Artisans Energy there and end off in that very weird predicament. Now, of course, when you succeed, your Artisans Energy is going to reset. So I wish you guys the best luck in not getting your Artisans Energy to 100%, because it's more ideal to just succeed earlier, right? But as you get to these higher levels, you're going to need to rely on the system more. So making sure not to mess it up and do it the right way is very, very important for getting the best value on your honing attempts. So I wanted to go over that in a little bit of detail there, because that's definitely the most important one. So now let's move on to number 2. And speaking of these additional materials here, it's very important to understand the value of your solar graces, your solar blessings, and solar protections, because in tier 1 and tier 2 it was really easy. There was only one of these additional materials. You had your moon's breath and your star's breath, but now in tier 3 there's 3 different types, and it's really important to know how these actually work here. And it's very similar to like in tier 1 and tier 2, but now you can use 3 of these, and each one has a maximum. Like, just as an example, I have a 30% honing success rate. I can add up to 12 solar graces, which is going to give me another 10%, which goes to 40. I can add up to 6 solar blessings, which is going to give me another 10%, and then I can add up to 2 solar protections for that final 10% there. So there's a limit as to how many of each of these additional materials I can use. Each of these is going to max out at 10% though, so it's important to know the value of what it's going to cost me or what these materials are worth versus how much additional honing success rate they're giving me. And just so you guys know, you can see that it caps out at like 12 solar graces and 6 solar blessings, but both of these is going to give me 10%. So that means that 2 solar graces is the equivalent in value to 1 solar blessing. And then you can see it uses up to 6 of these solar blessings and up to 2 solar protections. So 3 of these solar blessings is equivalent in value to 1 of these solar protections. And that's really important when it comes to like gauging the price of these materials off the market. And as a general rule of thumb here, because 2 solar graces is equivalent to 1 solar protection, the best value for these additional materials is going to end up being these solar graces. And just so you guys can get a better sense here, if we take a look at the market and we look at like solar grace, you could see that these are like 100-ish gold each right now. But if we look at solar blessing here, remember, it's a 2-to-1 ratio, so you're going to get the same additional increased honing success with 2 solar graces compared to 1 of these solar blessings, but the solar blessings are more than 4 times the price. So you're going to get much better value off of those green ones, which is the solar graces. So just kind of understanding this a bit more as you get into those higher honing levels is going to be very, very important. Let's move on to number 3, though, because number 3 is another very important one that has to do with these additional honing materials, and that is knowing the best place to actually get these, because I just used the market as an example so you guys can get a price comparison, but in a lot of cases the Mari shop is actually going to be the best source for these additional honing materials. And so it's very important, and I know I've talked about this before in other videos as well, but this is something that you're going to constantly be doing as you work on your gear, is kind of figuring out what stuff is going to cost you in the Mari shop compared to what it's going to cost you in the market. And just as an example here, we've got ourselves 20 solar graces that are available in the Mari shop for a price of 80 blue crystals. And if we were to buy 80 blue crystals off of the exchange here, you know, we can get 95 of them for like 750 gold. So 80 is going to be like 650-ish gold for 80 blue crystals, which is going to end up being enough to buy those 20 solar graces. Now, if we were to buy solar graces off the market here, you can see that they're over 100 gold each. So 20 of these would actually cost over 2,000 gold versus the 600 to 650 gold that it would cost in the Mari shop. We're getting more than 3 times the discount buying these in the Mari shop. Now, this was just an example. It's not going to be this good for every single item, but this is the kind of calculation and little trick that you want to use for basically every item and resource in tier 3 to ask yourself the question of, is it going to be better to end up getting these in the Mari shop or the market? Obviously, if you have a bunch of these materials and resources from other sources that are bound, you want to end up using those ones first. But if it comes to buying stuff that you need more of, you always want to ask yourself, what's going to be the cheapest source, the Mari shop or the market? All right, let's move on to number 4 now. And for number 4, we're going to end up heading up here to the Chaos Dungeons, and I want to talk a little bit here about the best way to run Chaos Dungeons if your goal is specifically to be getting as many resources as you can to hone your gear from 1340 to 1370. And I want to make a very important emphasis on, while this is the best way to end up running Chaos Dungeons, something I have an entire video talking about this in detail, and I didn't mention this, very big emphasis, don't end up doing this in a group. And what I'm talking about, of course, is doing your infinite chaos. This is after you've used your Aura of Resonance. Okay, so don't do your Aura of Resonance, this method, but after you've used your Aura of Resonance, stopping after the second room, after you end up killing the red boss. Please, please do not do this in a group, though. It's going to piss a lot of people off, and it's just really scummy, because when you join a group, a lot of people are expecting that you're going to complete the entire content. So if you just leave after the boss in a group, it's just a scumbag thing to do. If you guys are going to do this method, don't do it in a group, do it solo. And also, I will say that there's probably a lot of people out there who might not have as good PCs, or they have connection issues. If your loading screens are taking longer than like 45 seconds each, I would just stick to the regular method. Only if you have fast loading screens, only if you have decent connection to Lost Ark, you're not disconnecting, crashing, any of that sort of stuff, and only solo, not in a group. This method is going to be better, though, is stopping after the second boss. Or the red boss, I should say, after the second room. Because on top of the efficiency in getting more of the shards of purification per hour, the red boss is going to be one of the best sources for these tier 3 guardian stones and these tier 3 destruction stones. So you're actually going to start to notice these rack up a lot quicker if you do chaos dungeons with this method here. And another thing is, you're going to be getting a lot of these shards of purification as well. The tier 3 infinite chaos shop is a bit tricky here. Because it looks like there's a lot of materials, but as you end up buying more and more stuff, the price is going to increase, and all of this stuff is tradable. So I highly, highly recommend that you actually don't end up using any of the stuff in the tier 3 shop, and you actually sell it. And what you want to do is you want to always be looking for the best value that you can. What's the most gold that I can make per shard of purification that I end up exchanging? And right now, at the time of me recording this, it's all about Great Honor Leap Stones. And you can see the first Great Honor Leap Stone after the weekly reset is going to cost 130 shards of purification. But if you actually take a look at the price of a Great Honor Leapstone, you can see that they're almost 1,000 gold each, and you can end up listing these on the market. So for turning in 130 shards of purification, getting almost 1,000 gold, that's almost a 10-to-1 gold per shard of purification ratio. Now, obviously, as you end up buying more and more of these from the exchange shop, the price is going to go up, but you just always want to be on the best lookout for, how many shards of purification to gold can I end up getting, and just keep that in mind as you buy multiple different items in the exchange shop. I recommend that you guys sell this stuff and use the gold for other stuff that you're going to need for your progression, because in a lot of cases, using materials that are tradable is like the last source of materials that you use. You want to use bound materials first, Mari shop materials, and then only when you've exhausted all other sources of resources do you ever want to consider using unbound materials, because whales are just willing to pay so much for this stuff in the market. So that's going to be number 4 right there. And now let's talk about number 5, just a quick one here to kind of wrap up this video. And speaking of how incredibly overpriced Honor Leapstones and Great Honor Leapstones are, if you do find yourself when you need more of these, a little trick that I recommend here is your Una's tasks. So you can only end up doing 3 of these per day, right? You should probably be picking Una's tasks that end up giving you resources that you need, like these Honor Leapstones. But if you still feel like you end up needing more, what you can actually do is you can end up using these Una's tokens here. These Una's tasks daily +1. You can get these in the Mari shop, and you can also end up getting them from the event. The one in the Mari shop, you can only use 1 of these per day. But if you actually take a look at the Mari shop and you see, at first glance, you might look at this and be like, this feels like a scam. Only 1 extra Mari's task for 50 blue crystals. Isn't that kind of not worth it? Well, if you use that Mari's task to end up doing a task that gives you Honor Leapstones, you could see 50 blue crystals is like 350 gold right now, approximately. That's what 50 blue crystals is going to cost you. And if you end up doing a Mari's task that ends up giving you like 4 or 5 of these Honor Leapstones, compared to buying them off the market here, you could see Honor Leapstone, 4 or 5 of these off the market would end up costing you like 1,000+ gold. So spending 300-ish gold for the Una's token to get 4 or 5 of these instead of 1,000 gold off the market is going to be a pretty darn big discount. So if you feel like you need more of these, you definitely want to do that before you ever consider buying these off the market. So anyway, that's going to be about it for this video. I threw a ton of information at you guys, so I'm going to end up leaving it here. I hope that this helps out. I really do, because I know it is a big slog to go from 1340 to 1370. So anything that you can do to help out is going to be a big deal. Thank you guys for watching, everyone. I appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed, consider leaving a quick like. Consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like this in the future. And feel free to check out the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/salt, where I'll be streaming Lost Ark as well as other games. Thanks again, everyone. Take care, and until next time.